He once regarded him as a blood brother, sworn in sacred oath. In the imperial palace, they shared meals and quarters, studying the same art of governance side by side. Yet many years later, when he ascended the throne and became the conqueror, revered by millions, that very brother had transformed into the bloodthirsty and brutal Impaler. Not only did he inflict the most vicious tortures upon his own people, but he also sought to unleash an unprecedented plague, one that would erase his empire from the map entirely. Today we delve into this Turkish epic war film, Deliler, and witness a fated confrontation where brotherhood descends into bloody betrayal. Our story begins in mid-15th century during the Ottoman Empire. In the glorious reign of Sultan Murad II, the fertile region of Wallachia was peacefully absorbed into the empire without a single battle. To demonstrate absolute loyalty, the voivode of Wallachia sent his two sons, Radu and Vlad Tepes, as hostages to the Ottoman court. Sultan Murad II treated these boys as his own, ensuring especially that Vlad Tepes received the exact same elite education as his biological son, Prince Mehmed. Thus, by fate's design, the future legendary conqueror Mehmed and the later infamous Impaler, Vlad Tepes, became brothers. A wise man once offered a parable foretelling their destinies. Plant two seeds in fertile soil, nourish them with the same pure water, letting their roots find life. Let them breathe the same air as they grow. Mehmed will blossom into a rose, symbol of mercy and honor, while Vlad Tepes will become oleander, outwardly indistinguishable, yet inwardly deadly poison. When the oleander's venom spreads, scorching innocent lives, the master of the land must uproot it completely. Douse its evil fire with enough water and let the wind scatter every trace of its ashes. Years later, Mehmed inherited the throne, becoming the great Sultan Mehmed II. Vlad Tepes, too, finally claimed the Wallachian throne. But this marked not the dawn of justice, but the prologue to tyranny. He forgot the Sultan's compassion, styling himself instead as son of the dragon and heir of the devil. He subjected his subjects to unspeakable horrors, impaling countless victims alive on wooden stakes, his atrocities defying description. Upon hearing this, Mehmed was heartbroken. He dispatched an envoy bearing a final imperial decree. In it, he still addressed Vlad Tepes as brother, warning him to cease his tyranny at once. Should even one more innocent soul suffer harm, Mehmed vowed to bring punishment upon him. Yet, closing the letter, he left a glimmer of hope, a plea for his brother to repent and return to the right path. But within Vlad Tepes' grim castle, this act of mercy met only with vile humiliation. Staring at the Ottoman turban atop the messenger's head, Vlad's eyes burned with venomous resentment. Leaning close to the envoy's ear, he whispered coldly, recounting how that very turban reminded him of the humiliating childhood he endured in the Ottoman palace, of endless, pitch-black nights spent weeping alone. The messenger stood tall and proud, resolutely refusing. He declared loudly that the turban would be his shroud, and he would rather die than take it off. Vlad Tepes grinned maliciously and granted his wish. Amidst agonizing screams, Vlad drove iron nails through the turban, fastening it permanently to the messenger's skull. When news reached Mehmed, his heart shattered completely. The boy who had once grown under his protection had now become a raving monster, slaughtering even the final emissary of mercy and severing the last thread of their brotherhood. Baba Sultan cautioned him. Every decision he made now would be etched into history. Vlad Tepes' fate would serve as a lesson proclaimed to the world. Mehmed entrusted Baba Sultan with a mission and imbued it with sacred purpose.
Devlet kuşu havalansın. Ferman Hakanımızındır.
This is the secluded home of the empire's sharpest sword and most mysterious force, the heroic corps. They were men born for death, clad not in armor, but in flesh and resolve. They embodied Omar's justice, warriors who buried their own pain to protect the innocent, even unto death. The earth was their bed, the sky their blanket. Lonely wanderers who lit the darkness with their blades. Baba Sultan's voice echoed through the valley, delivering the Sultan's summons. The Deliler's leader plunged his sword into the ground, swearing their loyalty. A sacred ritual of questions and answers unfolded, defining the very soul of these warriors.
Ömer kimdir?
Pirimiz,
Ali kimdir?
erimiz,
Meydan nere?
yerimiz,
Cenk nedir?
yarimiz,
Can kime feda?
Hakan'a,
Yol nereyedir?
Kızıl Elma'ya.
Yareniniz kim? Deliler! Size kim derler?
Baba Sultan told them the tyrant had crossed the line. The empire had run out of patience. He commanded this invincible force to take up arms immediately, begin their journey at once, and deliver swift punishment upon the tyrant. Thus, 7 warriors, seeming as if stepped straight out of myth, mounted their war horses and charged toward the land shrouded in tyranny. Meanwhile, deep within Vlad Tepes's underground alchemical chamber, an even darker conspiracy was brewing. An alchemist was conducting horrifying experiments, combining a substance called red moss with the plague virus in an attempt to create an unprecedented biological weapon. Vlad Tepes arrived to inspect the progress, impatiently demanding updates. The alchemist excitedly reported that once the weapon was completed, it would wipe out all life in the entire city. Vlad Tepes immediately ordered that all his needs be met without delay. Flatteringly, the alchemist added, "With this weapon, Constantinople will fall in a single night." But Vlad Tepes's ambition went far beyond that. He intended to use this plague to erase his brother Mehmed from history itself, to ensure the name Conqueror would vanish from the memory of mankind. To execute this demonic plan, Vlad Tepes's soldiers stormed into the slums, luring the poor with gold coins and forcing them at sword point to catch rats. A young boy witnessed it all and overheard their conversations about creating the virus. He rushed to tell his grandfather this terrifying news. On another front, the heroic corps had already entered Vlad Tepes's territory. Choosing the most dangerous but also the shortest route, they plunged straight into the heart of enemy lands. Their leader declared, "The Sultan's decree is to protect the innocent. For that cause, we shall wield our blades." Soon, they arrived at a village that had been utterly ravaged. Corpses of slaughtered civilians littered the ground. Houses burned fiercely in the flames. A surviving girl clutched her father's body, weeping inconsolably. The warriors comforted her, assuring her that her father had become a martyr, his soul now in paradise. Deep among the ruins, Suskin discovered a dying man who still clutched a wailing infant tightly to his chest. Without a word, Suskin gently lifted the baby, his eyes revealing a tenderness none had ever seen in him before. They continued onward, taking the girl Alaka and the infant with them. Alaka told them her family, a Turkmen tribe serving as imperial pioneers, had all been slaughtered by Vlad Tepes's bandits. The warriors brought them to a gypsy encampment, hoping to find them safe refuge. The camp was celebrating a wedding, filled with music, dancing, and warm hospitality toward these mysterious strangers. That night, gathered around the campfire, Alaka curiously asked about the enigmatic warriors. Meanwhile, another warrior, who had remained silent throughout, held the infant close, never letting go, as if cradling the whole world in his arms. The next morning, the warriors decided to continue alone. Because their path is full of death and thorns, it is not suitable for women and children. Alaka pleaded to join them, saying Vlad Tepes's men would surely hunt them down, and she wanted revenge with her own hands, but their leader refused. He stated that death was the least painful thing on their path. If the enemy pursued them, they would be easier to deal with. The most painful thing for them was separation. Suskin gently placed the sleeping infant into Alaka's arms, his eyes brimming with reluctant farewell. Alaka took the child as if she were receiving a heavy entrustment. Gratefully, she said, "Whenever I've lost everything, an Ottoman has always come to help me." Meanwhile, Vlad Tepes received news that the bandits he had sent out had been utterly annihilated. The sole survivor so terrified he was nearly out of his mind. The man stammered that he didn't know where the attackers had come from. They wore furs, looked like monsters, and even seemed to have wings. Vlad Tepes flew into a rage and demanded to know how many enemies there were. But overwhelmed by sheer terror, the survivor could only gasp the word 7. before collapsing lifeless to the ground. Roaring with fury, Vlad Tepes issued orders to hunt down these adversaries who dared defy him. At that very moment, an envoy from the Pope arrived. The Pope lavishly praised Vlad Tepes for his triumphs in expelling the infidels, bestowing upon him the title Protector of Christendom and sending him a royal crown. Yet Vlad Tepes' arrogance had long surpassed all imagination. His ambition was not merely to eliminate Mehmed, but to make all of Europe bow at his feet. Deep in the forest, the heroic corps rested, their spirits shadowed by the sorrow of parting. Suskan still yearned for the infant they had left behind. Kongar, the ever-laughing warrior, let out his usual boisterous laughter, but now it sounded jarringly harsh. Asgar, another warrior who had just lost his own brother, could no longer contain himself. "Why do you always laugh like a clown?" he snapped. At this moment, Gokurt reveals the secret behind Kongar's smile. When you've killed so many on the battlefield that their faces blur together, when you've buried so many brothers that you've lost count, your heart grows numb, and your face is forever marked with a smile, as if carved by a dagger. In this cruel world, you either become like Suskan, utterly silent, or like Kongar, laughing without end to defy the unending pain. As night fell, a mysterious whisper echoed in one warrior's dream. "We gave you freedom, not to sleep, but to awaken yourself and others, rouse those who slumber. Let their hearts burn like iron thrust into fire." On an ancient battlefield, woven with faith and glory, a band of black-armored warriors charged headlong toward a hellish explosion point in a final, desperate assault. They were descendants of the celestial wolf, warriors who breathed thunder itself. Battle was their destiny. Their shields blocked not only blades, but also upheld the solemn vow they made to the homeland behind them. Their voices seemed to echo from primordial times. They would spread their wings to shelter this scarred and broken land, wrapping their brothers' wounds in their own flesh and blood, for they were justice walking upon the earth. Yet the path of justice is always paved with thorns and soaked in blood. During a sudden raid, disaster struck. Kongar, ever valiant, fell while shielding his comrades, struck by an arrow. Asgar held him, and he looked at the arrow that had pierced his flesh, his heart breaking. Kongar's life was slipping away rapidly, and Asgar was in immense pain, but powerless to do anything about it. He called his name again and again, but Kongar could no longer respond. Kongar's smile was forever frozen in that twilight. The eagle soaring in the sky seemed to mourn for the fallen hero with a sorrowful cry. The band fell into silence and faced a brutal choice. Their leader, Gokurt, ordered Asgar to lay down Kongar's body and press on with their mission. Asgar refused. He couldn't abandon his brother. He clung to the faint hope that life might still linger. But Gokurt's words were cold and resolute. Duty comes before all else. The dead are gone. The living must fight. In the end, Asgar obeyed. He buried his grief deep within his heart, forging it into fuel for vengeance. The group pressed onward, but an even greater danger loomed ahead. In a chaotic tavern, a man was being humiliated over unpaid debts. Meanwhile, the soldiers seemed completely oblivious to the commotion around them. An arrogant boxer was shouting in the ring, but no one dared to challenge him. He mocked everyone like a loyal hound of the tyrant Vlad Tepes. Then Suskan slowly rose to his feet, sickened by the cowardice around him. Without a word, he climbed onto the platform and defeated the brawler with sheer strength. The arrogant fighter crumpled beneath him, blood pouring from his wounds, utterly helpless. This silent man is a warrior of the heroic corps. Having settled the matter, he returned to his meal without fanfare. Soon after, the heroic corps regrouped. They needed to find clean water. Nameless went ahead to scout the path, but this journey plunged him into an abyss from which there was no return. When Mubariz and the others reached the riverbank, they found only Nameless's discarded armor and signs of a violent struggle. Mubariz was frantic with guilt. He blamed himself deeply for sending his comrade alone. They swore an oath. They would find Nameless, even if it meant scouring the ends of the earth. Meanwhile, in a village under Vlad Tepes' rule, children whispered among themselves about their cruel lord. The heroic corps arrived at a secret hideout and reunited with their comrade Karali, who had been operating undercover. They delivered the grim news of Nameless's capture. The atmosphere turned grave in an instant. Karali not only revealed Nameless's whereabouts, but also brought an even more horrifying report. Tyrant Vlad Tepes was secretly developing a biological weapon, planning to unleash plague through infected rats. This mad butcher dreamed of annihilating the world with pestilence. Now, 2 urgent missions stood before them: rescue Nameless and stop the plague. The heroic corps split into 2 teams, one to destroy the rat-infested lair, the other to infiltrate the castle and free their captured brother. Before parting, they exchanged solemn blessings and marched toward their separate battles.
Güçlü kuvvetlisin. Pehlivan mı olacağım?
Hayır. Ben de sizin gibi Deliler Ocağı'na katılacağım.
Adın neydi senin?
Eren.
İyi ki varsın Eren. İyi ki varsın.
In a dark, damp cave, Nameless endured unspeakable torture. Vlad Tepes's men used every method of cruelty to extract secrets, but Nameless revealed nothing. His eyes held only contempt and fearless defiance. Enraged by his silence, the torturers callously seared off his fingers with a red-hot branding iron. At the same time, Vlad Tepes stood alone in the wilderness, praying to the Father he worshipped. His words dripped with madness and venom, though he claimed to be a son of God. He despised his mortal birth. He even threatened the divine. If fate allowed him to be defeated, he would drag the very name of his God into darkness with him. The final battle was imminent. Before dawn, the heroic corps assembled one last time. Gokert looked upon his scarred brothers and declared, the hour of martyrdom had come. They recited their ancient oath, each word heavier than 1,000 mountains.
Vakit şehadet vaktidir. Meydanda devirdiklerimiz leş, zülfikar pusatlarımıza eş olsun. Hu delular, hu. Yemindir! Yemindir! Pusatım pare pare olmadan, bedenim yareyle dolmadan. Durmam! Yemindir! Yemindir! Yemindir!
On the battlefield, Vlad Tepes sneered in contempt, dismissing these warriors as foolish dreamers who dared challenge fate. At his command, both armies surged forward like tides of black ink, crashing together with apocalyptic force. Explosions lit up the warriors' enraged faces. Blades flashed in the chaos as lives withered like autumn leaves. Cavalry charged, infantry clashed. It was a battle with no retreat, only blood and sacrifice. Asger fought like a demon possessed. Kongar's death had turned him into an unstoppable engine of war. In that moment, the boy became a man, forged in the crucible of war's brutality.
Bundan sonra ne zaman susacağını, ne zaman konuşacağını iyi düşün.
In the most brutal and intense battleground, Mubaris, cradling yet another fallen brother, cried out in anguish to the heavens. He questioned the heavens. Why must these lion-like warriors suffer such a fate? Driven to the brink, Vlad Tepes roared in fury and disbelief. Once again defeated by Turks, he mocked his so-called father in heaven for scripting such a humiliating destiny. Even as Mubariz's sword pierced his chest, Vlad Tepes clung to delusion, convinced he could never truly die. When the smoke cleared, the battlefield lay in ruins. The heroic corps had won, but at a terrible cost. Amid the piles of corpses, they found their once nameless brother. Covered in blood yet still standing tall, his courage earned the respect of all. Mubaris himself wiped the dust from his face and bestowed upon him a new name, Hamza, meaning lion, and bearing the name of a great martyr. It was the highest honor, a testament to his rebirth through fire. They were men who died long before they fell. They were avenging spirits returning from the grave. They drowned tyrants in rivers of blood and scattered darkness with the sparks of their blades. They were the crown-shattering heroes, and the lonely legends buried in nameless graves. They were the heroic corps. The world may never know their names, but their legend will shine as brightly as the sun and moon, immortal for all time. Yet the end of battle does not guarantee the arrival of peace.